Welcome everybody and good morning. I thank you for being here at a earlier than usual time. Although Alistair, I see you've just joined, so it's probably actually a little more convenient for you than normal. But we've got a great speaker and a great conversation about some things happening in Japan today. So that's why we moved the time up a little bit to make it more conducive to Japanese time. Before we introduce our speaker, I wanted to point out some of the notes that I've already added to the group chat, including where the working group microsite is if you want to watch previous presentations. Also the Vertical Flight Society Hover Forum, you can check that out, as well as events. There's an events link, and we've got some interesting ones coming up. The Vertical Flight Society Electric Aircraft Symposium is coming up next month, July 20th to 21st, and that's the weekend, the Saturday and Sunday immediately before EAA AirVenture in Oshkosh, which runs that week from the following Monday to Sunday. Those two events are a blast, so if you're interested, I definitely recommend them. I went to both last year and to EAA 2 years before, and I think that maybe it was where I met Keisuke, our speaker, a couple of years ago. Yeah. But anyway, good time that I definitely recommend. Are there any other events that people might be going to or wondering if
yeah, I think everyone is heading to Farnborough. Majority of them are Farnborough Air Show is happening at the same time as the EAA as well. So that may be difficult for some people. Some people stay in Europe, and some people go to the States for the EAA. And also the Paris Olympics is happening after the Farnborough Air Show as well. So that's where Borocopter may be doing the demonstration, which hasn't been decided yet. So that's going to be an interesting part.
Yes. Oh, yes, that's right. I've heard some controversy about that.
I shouldn't be talking about it. So bad.
That's right. Any other interesting events coming up? I also like to give people the opportunity, anybody that's new that hasn't been here before that wants to introduce themselves and the projects they're working on. Of course, that's always it's not mandatory, but always welcome. We always like to be able to empower people to get to know each other and to network and partner up and discuss offline. Anyone new that wants to do an introduction?
I think this is my first meeting. Thanks, Andy, for having me.
Welcome, Hector.
I'm Hector Xu. I'm the founder and CEO of Rotor Technologies. We build large drones out of helicopters. So we convert Robertson light helicopters into uncrewed aircraft, use them for agricultural, firefighting, public use work. So great to be here. We're not, this is commercial air transport, technically. Right, Andy. Yeah, so I think one day we'll be doing a lot of commercial air transport with large UAS, and we're working towards that, but not doing it yet today. So I guess that's why I'm here. Great.
Yeah, I'm glad you are, and we always want to be able to use this forum to introduce ideas, to cross-pollinate. It's possible that ideas that work in the commercial realm can work in public services or agricultural things like that. So we're hoping that there could be ideas or relationships that you could build here that can help accelerate what you're doing.
Right, and we're based in the Boston area. I'm a huge fan of VFS. Came from academia myself. So if anyone's in the area would like to watch a flight demo, mess around in a simulator somewhere.
I'll be in Boston.
Andy can share my contact details.
Perfect. I'll be in Boston next weekend, so maybe I need to give you an email.
Yeah, drop me an email. Send me a text. You're very welcome. We have some helicopters and toys and things. We're very happy to share.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll send you a note. Perfect. Welcome, Hector. Thanks for being here. Anyone else?
It's Dan. I'll do a real quick. I've been auditing once in a while. I'm now the CTO of Honeywell's Advanced Air Mobility Division, a relatively new group in Honeywell, previously of the Boeing company in their Advanced Vertical Lift group as chief engineer. And I spent a little bit of time in commercial advanced concepts, Boeing commercial advanced concepts. So I've got a previous history in commercial air transport. So between vertical lift, commercial air transport, this is the right group.
Super cool. Glad you're here, Dan. Thanks for being here. And congrats on the new position.
Thank you.
Hi, Andrew. I'm just going to reintroduce. It's been a while, but I saw this. I'm Don Birchoff, the CEO of True Weather Solutions. We're working on low altitude weather challenges that to fill the data gaps that currently exist below 5,000 feet to try to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of eVTOLs and air taxis and drones. Thanks.
Outstanding. Don, I think like a lot of us, I listen to a few podcasts and try to watch interview videos in the AAM space. Did I see that you just did a podcast or an interview or two lately?
Yeah, it was Vertical Space, which it was Peter Shannon, and it was really good. I mean, if you never really thought about, spent a whole lot of time thinking about weather other than what you know, I think we had a really good conversation, very good deliberation about it, about what the technology, where it's going, and what the cost of weather is on a low altitude aviation and how we can address that. So yeah, I really enjoyed that conversation. So it's like an hour and 15 minutes. So
31st of May is the episode on the 31st of May. I haven't caught up yet, but amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long, I mean, it was a very, it's a wonky subject, right? Weather's wonky subject. It's hard, it's complex. So, we were able to really unpack, and, I hope you listen to it. If you're driving somewhere and you just need to be kept company or something.
So I just found that podcast and I can't believe I didn't know about it. It's called Vertical Space, right, Sean?
Yeah,
Vertical Space. Yeah, it's a good one. I have a 2-hour commute the days I'm in the office, and I always put it on and catch up with it there. But they don't hurry the guests. Actually, some of them are very long podcasts, which is really unusual. Actually, normally they want everything short and sharp and snappy, and actually they really get into it. It's a good podcast.
Yeah, in general, I mean, they've done over 80 something of them. So, I mean, they always, like you say, they drill in and they don't give free passes. This is not a feel good if you got to be ready to defend your thesis. And it was good. I respected that. I enjoyed it. And like I said, if you have time, you might, I think you'll learn something about weather that you hadn't thought about before.
Definitely. I listen when I'm riding my bike, which is about an hour-long ride, so it works out perfectly. But I agree with you. There was one that I was listening to where they were really asking some sharp questions of the speaker, and he kind of snapped back. But I was like, "Look, your customers need to know this stuff, and you got to be ready." So that's that's the reality of it.
Yeah, the Peter Shannon's a VC. They have Radial Ventures, I guess, or a VC company, so they know the questions to ask. We really dug into the business model, the business case, which is really important. You can have these great ideas, but if you can't monetize it, or there's nobody that can afford it or don't want to buy it, then it's, it's like a tree falls in a forest, makes a noise, but no one's there to hear it. Did it make a noise? So,
right.
So it's they were really good. They really know how to, if you go in there and you don't really have your stuff together, you could be definitely exposed.
John, for the benefit of the group, do you think you could, during this meeting, dig up the link to that podcast and drop it in the chat notes? Because sure. I think there'd be people like me that didn't know about it that definitely want to listen in the car or on the treadmill.
Yep, absolutely. I'll send
Perfect.
it.
I appreciate that. And on that topic, Don, didn't you present to the public services working group within VFS or for this group?
Yeah, well, I've presented in this group. I'm, some of the things you've seen online are, IKO. We're driving. I'm on the AAM, IKO AM working group. We're really trying to change how weather's viewed. We have a new standard for weather that we just published with ASTM that's going to open up the spigot on allowing other weather data sources to contribute to getting approved weather. Right now, it's very limited to, METARs, airports, and whatever the government provides. And that's really a gap, right? Especially for helicopters, as everyone knows. You know, you get into an urban area and you really don't know what you're going to fly into, or with the winds and the Ventura effects. You don't know where there's low ceiling and visibility, because there really is no data below 5,000 feet other than around airports. So, you know, helicopters have always dealt with this, but we were able to, the risk was acceptable because there's a pilot on board the aircraft. But as we move forward, the pilot won't be on the aircraft. They'll be sitting somewhere else, potentially flying, if they're flying at all. It could become fully autonomous at some point. I'm not saying that air taxis with people on them will become fully autonomous right away, but we know Wiskin and others are trying to drive towards that, whether you know, whatever you believe. But the bottom line is this, is that when it comes to low altitude weather, about 30% of your cancellations due to weather could have flown. They're recoverable. It's about the uncertainty that we don't know is out there. And so, you know, my thesis is if we're going to really do high density operations, we're going to try to, you know, fly a lot more higher velocity into vertiports in the future. We need to have these areas with better instrumentation, you know, otherwise it's going to become inefficient. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty costs money. And that's not what you're trying to, you know, when we're building these things and we're trying to serve the community, we don't want it to cost more, you know, more than it needs to. So my thesis is that we can close these gaps with low altitude weather infrastructure and services that would, you know, could potentially be a 4-to-1 return on investment for the user. And that's a really hard thing for people to get their head around. Weather's a cost. It's not an enabler of revenue. And that's what this podcast talks about. So,
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for drop that
Yeah, I'll
link
do that.
in, and we'll all take a look. And then for those that just joined us, this is just our opportunity to network. If anyone is new or hasn't been here in a while, we'd love to hear who you are and what you're working on. Or if you just have a new or interesting project that you want to talk about for a sec, we'd love to hear what everybody's up to. This is, I want everybody to be able to cross-pollinate, get to know each other, and if there's opportunities to work together offline, this is a great way to connect.
Fantastic. I'll go next if that's okay.
Paul.
My Paul Kamen. I'm based out of the Middle East, and I have a lot of friends here already. Hi, Don. Hector, nice to see you. How are you? And Keisuke, I spoke to Alistair, so I already know half of them after I've spoken to you before. I want to learn all about AAM industry and stuff, so I'm here. And thank you for all your gurus. Love to, you know, learn more every day. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, Paul. And anyone else?
Hi, hello, everyone.
Hey, Stan.
Yeah, I haven't been here for a couple of meetings. So I running a startup based in Singapore. We are currently working on application to optimize, to automate scheduling of the operations in MRO companies. So instead of doing all the manual assigning of the tasks, you can just use algorithm to assign them automatically.
Super cool. That's awesome. Thanks for being here. Anyone else before we move on to our speaker? All right, well, I'll do a quick introduction of Keisuke, although I think many or all of us already know him, but Keisuke Yasukochi is the Global Intelligence Officer at SkyDrive, based in Tokyo, Japan. First of all, given that it's 9 p.m. in Tokyo, where Keisuke is, I want to extend a big thank you to Keisuke for being here and staying up late for us. And thanks for your generosity and flexibility in being here. In the years that I've known Keisuke, he's traveled around the globe more than anybody I know. And he's been busy spreading the word about SkyDrive's achievements, initially as its business development officer, but now as global intelligence officer, and he's been managing business strategy for their worldwide market. He was previously a consultant focused on the AAM market and its ecosystems, including eVTOLs and uncrewed vehicles. And Keisuke also spent 18 years in Australia working as an internal auditor in the public services space, and he mentioned that gave him great experience creating positive and fluid interactions between the Japanese and Western cultures. SkyDrive is a Japanese eVTOL manufacturer and developer. They're building and testing a short-range 2-passenger multicopter right now. They began test flying the manned prototype back in 2019. Since then, have provided public demonstrations and are planning to fly at the Expo 2025 in Osaka. Keisuke can definitely tell the SkyDrive story better than that. So with that, Keisuke, the microphone is all yours.
Great, thank you, Andy.
I'll real quick, I'll ask everybody to go ahead and mute so that we have a good listening experience, and I'll do the same. Keisuke, over to you.
Thanks, Andy. My name is Keisuke Yasukochi. So I'm the Global Intelligence Officer for the SkyDrive. So I've been, as Andy mentioned, I've been traveling around and meeting like lots of different people. Funny enough, Sergio Kucheta from SMG Consulting in Japan, and I've been traveling with him for the last 4 days as well between SkyDrive and meeting the other ecosystem players in Japan, because apparently him and a few parties are planning to do the conference in Japan next year, towards end of next year, to do the sort of like AM sort of like event, because like we don't have anything in Japan at the moment except Japan Drone, which is focusing on drone only, but we want to make something similar to the VFS sort of like conferences in Japan, so we can focus on different application from the United States or the Europe as well. So we've been talking to JCAB, which is the Civil Aviation Authority in Japan, as well as some of the airliners, operators, vertiport players, and so on. So once the date is set, we will let everyone know that, so you can provide travel to Japan as well to see what's happening in here in this region. So I'll start with the presentation. Just give me a sec. I hope everyone can see it. So I'll start with the video of the SkyDrive, if you can see it. So thank you for watching. So SkyDrive is a pretty quick introduction. SkyDrive is the eVTOL manufacturer from Japan. So we are based in Toyota City, where the Toyota headquarters are, and also we've been developing the drones and eVTOLs at the moment. So SkyDrive is trying to build one and only 3-seater with 1 pilot and 2 passenger models at the moment. And it is the multi-copter configuration with the highest level of safety. So at the moment, we are going through the applications through the JCAB, which is the Civil Aviation Authority in Japan, as well as we are applying for the FAA type certification as well, so we can sort of like implement into the global market as well. So at the moment, our biggest milestone is the World Expo in Osaka in 2025, which is starting in April next year until October. So that's where 4 different eVTOL OEMs would be demonstrating their aircraft. So including SkyDrive, there's Joby, Rotorcraft, and Vertical Aerospace as well. So that's the 4 main eVTOL companies who will be doing the demonstration at the moment. So it hasn't been this sort of like this. Expo is sort of an interesting part of the demonstration at the moment. So it hasn't been decided whether we are allowed to fly with the manned or unmanned or with the passenger sort of like commercial purposes. That has to be decided by the JCABs, which they haven't come to the decision yet. We don't expect anyone to sort of like getting the type certification by the sort of until like somewhere in 2025. So we are more likely to fly with either airworthiness or the sort of like special category for the Osaka Expo at the moment. So on the left, so we are building the eVTOLs at the moment, and we also have the cargo drone, which we have already implemented into the market in Japan at the moment. So some of the applications are sort of like they use for the mountain areas for carrying the sort of like heavy loads at the moment. So that's where we are at the stage of the market, but at the moment we are focusing on the manufacturing the eVTOL, and we start doing the testing as well. So this is the sort of like eVTOL like we are currently making. So that's the sort of specification we are looking at. So the noise level would be the one sort of the sort of like existing helicopters. Seating capacity, as I've said, there's one pilot and 2 passengers. And the aircraft price would be sort of like 1/3 of the compared to the twin engine helicopters, and it will be lower than the fixed wing model like Joby and Archer and Vertical Aerospace, but I think it will be still quite expensive at the start until we do sort of like mass production of the eVTOLs as well. So we got the 12 units of motor for the propulsion system, and our MOTW is 1400 with about 300 kilograms of the payloads. Our cruise speed is 100 kilometers, and operational range is between 15 to 40 kilometers, depending on what the applications are. So at the moment, we are building the full-scale demonstrators for our testing later this year. So we do the sort of like wind tunnel test through the JAXA, which is the equivalent of NASA Research Center in the United States. So we do the wind tunnel testing. We do start building the actual full-scale model at the moment at our testing site in Aichi Prefecture as well. So that's where we are building. So for the certification, we are going through the JCAB and also through the FAA certification. So JCAB is the one, and there's only 4 authorities who are doing the type certification process at the moment. So that's FAA, EASA, JCAB, and ANAC in Brazil. So once we go through the JCAB, we probably go through the shadow program with the FAA as well, and vice versa. For the aircraft design, we chose to go for the multi-copter model because of the sort of like redundancy design and also the simplest design as well. We have sort of the fixed wing model like tilt rotors and that kind of models, but as everyone knows that AW609 problem as well, so we didn't want to make it too complicated at the start. That's why like we went for the multi-copter type model at the moment. So it's similar to the helicopter designs, and we are going through the USS FAA and the S4 sort of certification as well. So we do have a number of the sort of like manufacturing supply chains we are working with. So for avionics, we are working with Uptime. We also work with Toray for the carbon fiber component of the aircraft as well, and we are working with Thales for the flight control system. And for the battery, we are working with EPS for the lithium-ion batteries at the moment. And we also partnership with Suzuki Motor Corporation. So a lot of eVTOL companies are working with the sort of car manufacturers at the moment because of their sort of knowledge in the manufacturing process. So for example, Joby is working with Toyota, Archer is working with Stellantis. So we are working with Suzuki for their plant, utilizing their plant for the manufacturing of the first couple of years, and we may expand to the different locations. So Suzuki even have the multi-Suzuki factory in India as well. So that could be the potential for the later stage when it comes to the mass productions as well. So our applications are sort of like limited to sort of like 15 to 30 kilometer range. That's due to the battery restrictions and limitations as well. So we are more looking into the sort of like sightseeing, travels, and air taxis in urban areas. And we also look at the emergency services as well. But we recognize that the multi-copter type is more efficient until the 30 kilometers range. And after that, probably the fixed wing model would have more efficiency on the longer flight as well. So we want to limit our sort of like application between the 15 to 30 kilometers range at the moment. And that's the advantage of the multi-copter at the moment as well. So as I've said, that's the sort of like factory we are utilizing at the moment with the collaboration with Suzuki. So we just set up the joint venture with Suzuki. It's called Skyworks. So that's where we are building our first eVTOL and some of the a few for the demonstrations and testing vehicles as well. It is great to sort of like having the partnership with Suzuki as their mass knowledge of the mass production of the cars, and also it could be applying to the eVTOL manufacturing as well. So Suzuki's factory is in Shizuoka Prefecture, so that's between the Tokyo and Aichi, Nagoya, where so it's like middle of like the nowhere, so they have the enough land to so like we can maximize their factory to be able to produce like up to 100 aircraft at the start. So for our global strategy, we are focusing on some of the areas, including Japan, and we also have the office in US at the moment, in South Carolina, where we have the sort of branch office in the USA. And we also working with some of the partnership in South Korea, Vietnam, India, and also the UAE as well, both Abu Dhabi and Dubai as well. And during those 6 countries, like we have the 260 plus pre-orders at the moment. So hopefully like we can start manufacturing for the real production model as well. So quickly overview of the SkyDrive. So we've been established since July 2018. Our office is in Tokyo, Osaka, and Aichi Prefecture. So at the moment, we are utilizing the old office of MRJ program. Some people may know that Mitsubishi Regional Jet program has been suspended for last couple of years. So we are utilizing their office now. So we have like over 300 people at the moment as well, and we work with a number of key investors, including Suzuki, KEPCO, and Itochu and Tokyo Marine for the insurance as well. So that's some of the key members, and this is what our vehicle would look like for the demonstrator and also the production model. So we didn't want to do the sort of like horizontal sort of the frames. So we sort of like angle like dome configuration. So it gives the much more efficiency and also the redundancies. So it doesn't hit, if one propeller fails, it doesn't hit the other propellers through the accident as well. The interesting part would be the World Expo in Osaka. So after the Paris, that would be the biggest milestone for the whole AM industry as well. So we are hoping the quadcopter will fly in the Paris for the demonstration as well, because like that would be the great benefit for our operations as well. For the Osaka Expo, the Expo site is outside of the Osaka Bay, like where there's tiny island of the Yumeshima. That's where we will be, and Osaka Expo Committee is planning to do the whole AM industry and smart mobility expo project as well. So they have already started building the birthport in the Yumeshima Island, as also outside of the expo site as well. So we are planning to do the A to B sort of like application use cases as well. So during the expo months, we will be flying those vehicles to the public demonstration to the general public, as well as the sort of for the professional purposes as well. So hopefully both all SkyDrive, Joby, Volocopter, and Vertical Aerospace can do the demonstration, the whole AM technologies. But we haven't sort of like decided or whether like we will be doing the demonstration for full 4 months as well. that has to be depending on the weather conditions. Like for example, like what Don was talking about, we don't know like what's gonna be the weather condition in Umeshima Island as well, because it's outside of the Osaka Bay, so they may have the strong gust or even for the lightning as well. So depending on which seasons, we maybe sort of choose to fly in certain locations. So that's the sort of like expo site would look like for the next year as well. And there's like also it looks quite empty at the start, but it will be sort of like exciting sort of like use cases for the for whole AM industry as well. So at the moment, as I said, like we are building the full-scale demonstrators, and we will be doing the flight testing to be able to be ready for the Osaka Expo as well. And I just had the interesting conversation with Sergio about like whole AM and where it's going, and how the money-wise, it's getting tough and tough for like any eVTOL OEMs at the moment, because we have to keep getting also the fundings as well to build these aircraft, and also getting the type certification as well. So hopefully JCAB, the Civil Aviation Authority, will be ready for the whole regulations, and also for the policymakers will be allowing us to do the demonstration for the general public as well. So that's the sort of like pretty much the short presentation of the SkyDrive. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take, because like I didn't want to take too long to do the sort of boring presentation. It will be better to have like more discussion on the like what's happening in the OEM industry as well. Thank you.
Well done. Excellent. Thank you, Keisuke.
No worries.
What questions do people have?
I can start.
Please.
Thanks for the presentation. Really cool. Are you guys going to? You mentioned that you want to do start flying next year at the Osaka Expo. Is the plan to do flight testing initially with pilots, or on board or unmanned?
It will be with the pilot. Well, the testing will be unmanned, of course. It's going to be the path operations at the start. For the certification purposes, of course, we're going to need the pilot at the start. No regulators will allow any automation from the start anyway. So JCAB clearly said that they need the pilot at the start as a VFR sort of like operations. They will probably move to the IFR in later stage, but that's still the sort of like uncertainty. I know that Whiskey is trying to do the automation from the start, but most of the regulators clearly said that they would like the pilot at the start. Like, and I probably personally don't feel safe not having the pilot at the spot anyway.
Yeah. So. There was some news, I think, a year or two ago about Japan opening up a lot of airspace to unmanned aircraft. So this is a big problem in the US. It's actually kind of, I think, even if you're developing piloted eVTOLs, that really you're going to go through an unmanned phase. It's got a lot easier in the US in the last couple of years, but it used to be very difficult to fly anything unmanned unless you were the military. What's it like in Japan? The approvals to be able to fly large unmanned aircraft.
Yeah, I think it's still the issue as well. So obviously, you know that they opened up the airspace for the drones at the start. So they opened the level 4 drone operations in like urban areas as well, but we don't see any drones flying at the moment. So obviously,
is it because there's a weight limit, or because the rules haven't been implemented?
It's the rules, and it hasn't been implemented properly yet. So so for example, like even in Tokyo, the aerospace is largely controlled by the Haneda runway, and also the Yokota Air Base of the US Air Force. That's controlled by the controlling the Tokyo airspace. That's why, like, I think it will be much easier to do the operations in Osaka as a start, because there's no military controls. But in saying that, there's still the 3 major airports in the Osaka Bay as well. That there's Kansai, Itami, and the Kobe Airport. So we're saying that we will be flying less than 500 meters. that's still gonna get difficult for the if it's going to the sort of like runway to the Kansai Airport and Itami Airport as well. So that's sort of like the issue that JCAB still have to go through with how they're gonna operate with the national airspace and ATM and UTM systems as well. How it's gonna be integrated into the sort of like airspace controls less than 4,000 feet as well.
Yeah, sounds like the same problems the world over.
I think they all have the same issues and same problems. And all the challenges are the same. Like, for example, like if you want to fly in New York City, that's going to be like a lot of challenges of the city canyons as well and how the environment works. And like even like in Tokyo, like there's like a really strong gust wind between the buildings as well. So that's the creating the city canyon where we don't know what's happening with like next moment. Like you might have the strong gust wind, which could flip the whole eVTOL because it's much lighter than helicopters as well. So that's gonna be the significant issue. And the other issue is probably the if it fails to sort of like take off as well. So at the moment, you know, they talk. EASA is pretty much mentioning about how the obstacle free runways, but it's not mentioned in the FAA body port guidelines. So that still has to be decided whether that's going to be applying to the FAA. There was through the EASA as well. So JCAB is sort of clearly getting towards the EASA certification for the body port, but they are following more FAA certification for the type certification. So they do the pick and choose on whichever apply to better for the sort of like Japanese AM industry as well.
Question
What
from
other
me.
questions? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been interesting recently to hear some of the OEMs who are committed to selling commercially and operating commercially only, saying that they're getting inbounds from lots of high net worth individuals who want to buy their aircraft. Have you seen a similar thing? Have you had individuals come and say, can I buy one and secure a slot?
There's a few actually high net worth individuals who are interested in, but in same time, like who's gonna be operating these vehicles? That's gonna be the issue, and licensing as well, because obviously there's type rating for the helicopters, and for example, like eVTOL also have their own licensing, which hasn't been even decided by any regulators at the moment. For example, like multi-copter type model may be easier because it's similar to the helicopter configuration. But if you want to fly the tilt wing model, that's like, for example, like V-22 Osprey, that's only the license is only issued to the US Air Force at the moment. So how are they going to be able to train the people? Like, for example, like Joby is hiring a few ex-US Air Force people as well. So that's going to be the significant issue for who's going to be operating the actual aircraft and who's going to own it as well. Even like a few high net worth individual who wants to buy it, there's only a few vehicles they could buy it, but it's more matter of like who's going to be owning the actual vehicle itself. For example, like for the general aviation, the leasing companies are owning like majority of the aircraft at the moment. So we've been talking to a few leasing companies in Japan and other markets as well, but at the moment, there's no secondary market for those eVTOL, and every single eVTOL is so different, not like Boeing and Airbus, like it's just simple. But that's gonna be the issue for the sort of like leasing company to tap into the sort of like eVTOL market at the moment. So until there's sort of like activity on the secondary market, it may be difficult who's gonna own it, and that's I think it's gonna be the same issue for everyone in like around the world as well at the moment.
Good question.
I had a question around payload. I know you flashed it up fairly early in the deck. It was down at 1,400 kilograms, but you were looking at only flying sort of one pilot and two passengers, which is what sort of maybe 250, 300 kilos. What are you? Yeah, there's a difference there, right, between the payload and actually what you're carrying.
Yeah, so payload is about 300 kilograms and MOTW is about 1,400. So it's funny that like whether we are focusing on the either Japan market or US market, that's gonna be the different one as well, because at the moment our pilot is weighing about 65 kilograms, so that's gonna be different in each regions as well for whether we can put the smaller pilot or bigger pilot, and what's going to be the sort of
I've seen
average
an
means of the
infographic
weight.
actually. So the US and the Emirates sort of weight per passenger is very different than if you look at, say, Japanese, Philippines, things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have considered for Japan first, but if we are focusing on the US and the other countries, we have to measure what's the variance of the means of the weight, sort of like average as well. So that's going to be the different in the different market as well. So
we're going to need wider seats and a place to put the donut box.
You wish.
and we have 82-ounce drinks here, so like a big cup holder size like that.
So I think that's gonna be the issue for the smaller eVTOLs like ours or even Volocopter or EHAM. I think it may not affect the bigger eVTOL company like Joby and Archer, because like they can have the much bigger payloads. So that's gonna be the sort of like weight limit for the eVTOLs at the moment, I think.
Thank you.
Good question. Who else has a question for Keisuke?
Well, one more. So certification 2026, what does the final assembly line look like in Q4 2026, Q1 2027? What does it look like at SkyDrive?
So at the moment, we are only using one assembly lines in the Suzuki factory at the moment. So we are building the sort of demonstrators in Suzuki factory, and also at the different locations as well for the the propeller frames. So so that's gonna be the first initial sort of start of the manufacturing, but we are getting ready to open the secondary assembly lines. So that's sort of like maximizing the capacity of the Suzuki factory to up to like 100 vehicles per year for the assembly lines as well. So that's sort of like gradual cases, and what's going to be the need and demand for our eVTOLs as well. So we can sort of like expand it to whatever the need we can meet for the demand. Then also it's going to be affected by also our supply chains as well. Some of you may aware that supply chain for the aviation industry is getting like really late at the moment as well. So that will be affecting our manufacturing the capacity as well, because I think for example, like the batteries, that's the crucial for the eVTOLs as well, and also the carbon fiber component that's getting late on the production because of the demand, where I think it's not meeting the supplies part of it. So there's all different factors that would be affecting our supply chain and our assembly lines as well.
Who's next?
So
Don, did you have a question?
Yeah, I guess I have more of a comment. Well, comment and a question. But so for Osaka, I just want to make you aware that True Weather is working with Metro Weather in Japan.
Yeah.
They're actually our partner because I believe in their technology, and that's really going to be a key component of us filling these gaps that I was talking about earlier. So, if we have built True Weather, we'll have, by the time Osaka comes, we'll have the ability to deliver products from the Metro Weather data set along with other products to help you with that wind and gust problem. And we can deliver it in a way that would be useful to your, potentially routing and decision making. So if you're interested, just let me know. I mean, I know you have a lot on your plate and there's a lot of other things to worry about, but I think, we can make it pretty simple for you if you, you want to take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. The weather factor would be the sort of like really key factors for the operations in Osaka Expo as well. I think whether they will be able to fly or not, that's gonna be like all depending on the weather conditions as well, I think. So I saw your name on the air integration event as well. So Sergio was talking about advisory board, and I saw your name as well. So it's great to have the different ecosystem players coming to the Osaka Expo as well, so we can do the successful event. So I'm happy to talk to you, connected with you later on as well.
Yeah, that's good. I think that we could also, in that scenario, we can demonstrate what the power of weather could do to help your decision-making performance, predictability, reliability. We can even have meteorologists watching that event for that particular event to help you really manage through some of the uncertainty. It would be exciting. And I know that's also a time when you can have showers and other things. So let us know if you're interested. I think that's a great use case.
Sure, thank you.
And we just have about 10 minutes left. Keisuke, I had a question for you.
Sure.
A challenge for everybody in this space, particularly the electric multicopters, is reserve flight time. If we need to use an alternate, or if there's an emergency or something like that. How do you and SkyDrive think about maintaining adequate reserve flight time?
So we are at the moment currently holding the 40% reserves on the batteries systems at the moment, but that's all depending on what's regulated would say, whether they need the sort of safe landing spot, or whether they need alternative the landing pad as well. So that's still been decided by the JCAB. We've been talking to JCAB like every single week, pretty much, whether they will provide assess whether they need the sort of like emergency landing pad between the two points, like ATV, sort of like flight time. So that's all depending. I think they still need to do more studies on whether they need to do that, and they also need to sort of discuss with the other regulators like FAA and EASA as well, whether they have already done the sort of assessment as well. I know that they are doing the sort of like some sort of like research on the whether they need, because like obviously the eVTOLs cannot fly that long distances because of the battery technologies as well. So that's gonna be the difficulty of the keeping the sort of airspace safe and on the ground safe as well. So that's gonna be the interesting question to the regulators.
Yep. Yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
Who's next?
I hope that we can answer it, but at the moment, like no one can answer like some of the questions at the moment.
There's a lot of things in flux, and that's a big one.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Paul Kamen. I have a question. You had mentioned that you have partners in UAE. Fantastic. What kind of missions are you planning in the UAE? Summers could be quite warm here, and range could be reduced. So just curious.
So we are sort of like starting talking about like more like air taxi and sort of like tourism at the moment with the sort of like some of the government agencies in UAE at the moment. So hopefully, as you mentioned, the weather condition is quite tough, like especially the sun and heat in the UAE market. So it may be limited to the couple months of the year, like we can sort of like doing the flight test and actually doing the flight as well. But that's depending on whether our battery can withstand that those kind of like difficult environment conditions as well. So hopefully we can start doing more testing on the different environment factors, like for example, like certain batteries works on different temperatures as well. So at the moment, we're looking into the lithium-ion batteries, but we've been talking to some of the different battery makers for the silicon anode and also the lithium metal as well. So that's going to be the new technology would have to come play as well. So hopefully we can do the sort of like environmental analysis on different markets as well, like when we do the actual testing.
Awesome, thank you.
And we've got about 5 minutes left. Time for another question or two.
Well, you said you have a plans to have operation in Osaka, yes, during the expo. But what kind of regulation legally allow you to do that operation? Because certification will be not there yet, yes?
Yeah.
So how does it work?
So JCABIS is trying to do the sort of special conditions for those eVTOL OEMs at the moment. So we definitely try to avoid flying over the people's heads. So the route they are thinking at the moment is flying off the Osaka Bay and coming like landing into the sort of like minimum interruption from the general public as well. So that's the sort of like the expectations at the moment from the our civil aviation authority, but that hasn't been decided completely yet. So that's the sort of like for the next 10 months they have to come into the decision of how they would like to do the sort of operations for the expo in Osaka. I think they can learn more from the Paris Olympics as well, because if quadcopter will fly, then they can learn more of the sort of lesson learned from the Paris Olympics and what's their operation route and operation prudence on the eVTOLs as well. So sorry, like we cannot say like what route or what regulations that we can fly. That's like sort of like out of our hands, but like hopefully like we can come up with to the best decisions for the expo.
Keisuke, in terms of markets, do you see the market for logistics, like middle mile package, repositioning between distribution centers, things like that?
I think so, to be honest. Like middle mile package delivery would be quite useful for some of the countries. It may not work in Japan because we do have such an efficient system on the sort of ground transportation on the middle mile. But obviously, definitely would be the sort of like application for the different countries as well. So we don't believe the last 1 mile would work because of the sort of like urban city areas, like we cannot use like drones and stuff at the moment. It's just too complicated with the systems and infrastructure as well. But middle mile package would definitely work for the some of the applications as well, I think.
Makes sense. We just have a couple minutes left. Maybe one more question. Keisuke, how many miles do you think you flew last year?
So last year I caught 70 international flight. I did 300,000 kilometers.
300,000 kilometers?
Yes. So
I think there were like 3 times I saw you in the middle of trips and you just said you didn't even go back home. You were doing so much travel. You were just going around the planet like the whole way multiple times.
I did, yes. So I was hoping that I'm doing less this year. Just getting sick of traveling, and my body is fragile. Okay. I wish my body was younger. So
you're a machine, man. You're a warrior, travel warrior.
Yeah, and I don't see any eVTOL be flying with that's kind of like miles anyway at the start. So, and I think like some of the interesting part, like I just had the conversation with Sergio as well. I think if we can sort of package those kind of eVTOL into the sort of like first class, business class packages, I think that could probably work better for the airliners applications. Like for example, like NA and Emirates and used to do the sort of like first class chauffeur hiring services as well, which is included into their price of the ticket as well. So that could be the potential. So
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that.
We have like all different kind of ideas. We just putting some ideas on how we can make money after the initial demonstration as well, because obviously like what comes after the Osaka Expo is the sort of a challenge Japan as the whole industry is facing at the moment. We haven't come across like what's going to be for the future for the commercial operations. That's going to be the real tough challenge for the any eVTOL industry and whoever is in this industry as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, you've already done great things, and I'm excited to watch where you and SkyDrive go next. Thank you so much for working late tonight. I think it's about 10 p.m. your time, so probably
No worries. Thank you
getting
so
ready
much
to.
for having me anyway. I think this time it's so much better than other times anyway. So because usually it's 12 or 1 a.m. for me.
Right. Well, thanks for your flexibility. Thanks for being here. Great conversation today. And so from all of us, thank you, Keisuke.
Thank you.
And we'll sign off with
Thank
that.
you. All right.
Take care.
Bye.